right, today what we're going to do is we're going to start with chapter 11. In this unit, what we're going to do is mainly look at surface area, perimeter of different shapes, and a lot of the things that you're going to be learning, we're going to be using not only in chapter 11, but we'll also be using in chapter 12. So first of all, let's take a look at the first section, areas of triangles and parallelograms. The first definition that we're going to look at is perimeter. Now, there are no definitions necessarily for perimeter. Perimeter, all you do is you add all the sides of the figure. If you look closely at the word, it kind of gives you a hint as to what you're finding. You are finding the rim of the figure. So to do that, we're going to look at the sum of all sides. When we look at area, you're going to notice that there are a lot of formulas. And my advice to you is to start creating a list of some of these formulas along with the picture of the shapes that you can study some of these formulas. So first of all, if I take a look at a rectangle, the area on that, there are two different ones that you can do. It is the base times the height. And notice I don't put an X in there for times or a dot. You do not need it. Or the length times the width. And again, you do not need parentheses with that. You do not need a dot with it. Of course, you don't use an X because that can also look like a variable. Okay. Let's keep going. It says the area of a parallelogram is the product of the base and the corresponding height. And so you'll take a look. This is a parallelogram. Of course, there's several different shapes that are parallelograms. But the main idea is that the base and the height are always perpendicular. They're always perpendicular, and you can find that with that symbol right there. So you're going to notice that the base goes from one edge of the figure to the other edge of the figure, and the height goes straight up from the base. So you're going to notice that this side right here that I highlight and this side right here, they are not the height of the figure. They are just the side of the figure. And so let's go ahead and let's use some of these things to find the area. Now, when you find the area, what I'm going to ask you to do is use 3 lines of work. So the first thing you're going to do is pick a formula and write it down. And then you're going to plug your numbers in, and then you're going to come up with your answer along with your variable or your labels. So please make sure that you grab your formula and use it correctly. You're going to be using this in surface area. You're going to be using it for volume. And then you could possibly use this technique later on in another science class. So first of all, we're going to find the area of the shape. And of course, this is area equals, we'll use base times height because it's a parallelogram. So the first step is to go ahead and write the formula down. So I'll put a 1 down. The second step of this is you're going to grab your base, which of course is 7. And you're going to multiply it the height, which is 6. And the reason why it is you'll notice I have that right angle right there. And so the height and the base, they touch each other. The third step then is to go ahead and to multiply them together. So I get 42. And of course, this would be centimeters, and it would be centimeters squared. There 2 is in the upper right-hand corner, and it is small. And what that does is it tells you that it is the area of the figure. So notice I have 3 lines of work. I have the formula, I have the numbers to plug in, and then I have the actual answers themselves. Let's go ahead and let's look at this figure. So again, I'm going to grab my formula because it's a parallelogram. Area equals base times height. In this figure, what you'll notice is they gave me the area. So I'm going to grab 150. And you're going to notice that I'm trying to find X. And that actually is the height of the figure. It's associated with that right angle. And so my base is going to be 10 and my height is going to be X. And notice that I put X in and don't leave the H in because that is the variable that's in the figure. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 10, and X ends up giving me 15, and it would be centimeters. And the reason why it's centimeters and not centimeters squared is I'm not finding the area of the figure. I'm actually finding a dimension of the figure. Let's keep going. Okay, in this figure, you're going to notice that I've got several measures. Again, I know it's a parallelogram, so I'm going to grab my formula. A equals base times height. Okay, they do not give me the area. And so I need to go ahead and plug in what I know. So area equals, and they're asking me to find, the area of this figure, or actually asking me to find the x of the figure, which is the dimension, but I'm going to use area to help me figure that out. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the area, and then once we find the area, we're going to use it again. You're going to notice they did give me two things in this figure. They gave me this dimension right here, and they gave me this dimension right here. And the reason why I'm going to use those two is you'll notice that I've got that right angle. So the base is going to be 15, the height is going to be 9. So my area of this figure is going to be 135. Now that I've got that, what I can do is I can use that information, grab the formula again. So I'm going to plug in my area, and then I'm going to take a look at my other pieces. You notice that I'm trying to find the x, which is here, and I've got a right angle. Well, that right angle would be touching the base, which would be down here. And again, in a parallelogram, these bases are congruent. So my base is going to be 18. My height is going to be x. I divide both sides by 18, and x ends up giving me 7.5, and I'm going to say that is units. So sometimes what you need to do to find a dimension is you need to find the area of the figure. You need to use that area then and apply it to another part of the parallelogram. All right, that's a parallelogram. Let's go ahead and let's look at the triangle. A triangle, the area is 1/2 base times height, or base times height divided by 2. It would be the same thing. Note that the base and the height are always, again, they're always perpendicular. So I have the base, which is b, and then I've got the height that's associated with that right angle. So let's go ahead and let's find the area of these figures. Again, the first step is to grab my formula. So area equals 1/2 base times height. They didn't give me the area. Now you're going to notice that they gave me 3 sides to the triangle, and that could be kind of confusing, like which measures do I use? Again, remember that this right here is called the hypotenuse. That is not a leg. And so when we're working with triangles and finding the area, we're going to go, rather than looking at the hypotenuse, we're going to look at that right angle. And so the second step, I'm going to go ahead and plug in what I know. It's 1/2, my base is 9, and my height is 4. So step 3, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solve it. I end up with 18, and it would be 18 inches squared because I'm trying to find the area of the figure. Again, notice that it's 3 lines of work and that I'm working up and down. Do not work side to side, work up and down. The next triangle that we're going to look at, let's go ahead and let's grab our formula. That's the best place to start. Okay. They did not give me the area, so I'm going to grab my area equals 1/2. And again, base and height. I've got tons of information here, but I don't need to use it all. Again, what you do is you look for that right angle and you look at the 2 pieces that touch it. The one piece that touches that right angle is this piece right here, and the other piece is this right here. So my base is going to be 4, my height is going to be 3, my area ends up giving me 6 centimeters squared. All right, let's keep going down here. With this situation, we're going to try to solve for x, and you'll notice that they gave me the area. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my formula again, like always. My area is 30.55. I'm going to grab 1/2. You're going to notice that they gave me a bunch of information. So again, I'm looking for the right angle. Because that's my right angle, I know that x is my height, And then this right here would be considered my base, which is 6.5. So 6.5 times x, 30.55 equals 3.25x. Okay, notice that I'm using parentheses rather than dots for multiplication. Sometimes the dots can look like decimals, and that can be really confusing. Then I divide both sides by 3.25, and x ends up giving me 9.4, and it's centimeters. All right, and then finally, find the area of the yellow region. You're going to notice that I've got a shape within a shape. The outside shape is a square. And I know that because all of these sides have hash marks, which means all sides are congruent. I got a right angle, which of course means that I've got a square and I don't have a rhombus. So you notice that the outside of this shape is a square, and the inside of this is a triangle. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to take a look at the yellow shape. And I'm going to go ahead and do, we'll put yellow, let's call it yellow square. I'm going to label what I'm trying to find. So the yellow square is area equals base times height. That's a parallelogram. Area equals 8 times 8. Second step, area equals 64. And if you want to put a label there, you can, but we're not done. So I don't think you need to at this point. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at this triangle. And it's a triangle, so I could go triangle. Okay, area equals 1/2 base times height. Area equals, okay, I know that this triangle has this side right here, which is 8. So I know that's my base. But my problem is I don't know what my height is. I don't know, you know, some students say, well, isn't this a right angle? We don't know that. Unless they give us that that's a right angle, there is nothing we can do. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to draw a line like this, and we're going to make that a right angle. And we can do that. We can drop that down. And I know that this distance, let's call it x, is going to be x plus 5 equals 8, because that whole side of that square is 8. So x ends up giving me 3, which is the actual height of the figure. And if you wanted to, you could say that's h rather than x. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go ahead and go down here, and I'm going to say that's 3. The area of this ends up giving me 12. Okay. So now to find the yellow portion, the shade of the figure, I'm going to take the area of the yellow triangle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the area of the triangle. And so if I take the area of the square and I subtract the area of the triangle, I get 52, and it would be units squared. So you find the area of the larger shape, you find the area of the smaller shape within it, and then you subtract it. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, good luck with the unit.